Good Wednesday morning. This is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. I want to give you a quick update on the latest thoughts on severe progression and potential for the day. As you recall, I did a video yesterday about the potential issues with today. Everything from we've got incredible dynamics, and sometimes with those incredible dynamics, one of them will get out of whack and overdo itself and kind of ruin the whole thing. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Usually that's vorticity, low level vorticity, if which is actually what creates a spin for the tornadoes. But sometimes if that gets into overdrive too soon, it will actually kind of start to shred things apart and ruin the low level dynamics. So we'll see how that plays out. But we're going to take a look first at the Storm Prediction Center. I told you yesterday that I thought that these risks should come south and east, and that has in fact now happened. The moderate risk is now down all the way to the western border of Madison County. So we're sitting right on the edge of an enhanced risk to a moderate risk for severe. I would tend to focus the way things are progressing right now more in the southern end of this, probably from Lafayette to Kokomo to Marion and south is where my greatest concern right now would be. But that's kind of that's my personal thought. But this is what the Storm Prediction Center has as of their last update. With that shift has also come a shift in the tornado parameters, and Madison County is now again right on the fringes. Let me back this off a little bit. We're right on the fringe of right around a 30% risk, or right around a 15% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of a given point. But then you can see we've gone. Yesterday we were kind of in this hatching here. We're now in the solid line hatching, which is a category 2 of the 3 intensity levels. This indicates that where tornadoes do form, there's a really stronger risk of them being in the EF3 type category and potentially being longer tracked. Whereas a lot of times we have tornadoes that will be on the ground for a short period, maybe a few miles. These have potential to be on the ground for a longer period of time and be stronger. Damaging wind risk has also been increased with this shift, and we're now in a 45 to 59% risk for storm cells having damaging winds. And again, you can see that hatching across there, which indicates that there's a decent risk for those damaging winds to exceed 75 to 80 miles per hour. So damaging winds are the main risk with these storms, but all modes of severe are possible. And here's the severe hail outlook. And Madison County is sitting right on the edge of these two. So we're right around a 30% risk for damaging hail. And again, you can see that hatching, which indicates a risk for hail that's 2.5 inches or larger. So this could be, if we do end up with hail, it won't necessarily be the pea-sized hail that we usually get around here, pea to, maybe quarter-sized. This would potentially be some larger hail that could do some more serious damage to vehicles and buildings. So those are our risks for the day. Let's take a look at how things are actually progressing. So here's radar as of 11:20 a.m. And what you're seeing is the first wave that's coming through. There's some severe that's embedded in this, but you can see it's beginning to lose some of its punch. Again, late morning and very early afternoon are not good times for severe, and yet this has still generated severe, even though it's in an unfavorable situation. But one of the things that we're watching here is this precipitation shield really expanding right here. And if you recall in my video yesterday, I said that if some of the other dynamics begin to wash out, that what we would have to maybe watch for would be a torrential rain event instead. And you can see back here in Illinois, there are in fact several flood warnings going on back in here. So, several of them into Iowa and then Western Illinois. So heavy rain is definitely on the table. It almost might be the greatest risk would be flooding rains, but we'll have to see how this plays out as this precipitation shield begins to expand out. So with current radar in mind, the only model that is anywhere near what's going on right now is the RRFSA, the 12Z run of it. And because you can see it does have the precipitation shield into northwestern Indiana. It has the storm clusters back in here. It's kind of underdone on this extension here of severe and this extension of severe. So it's kind of underdone on that, but it has the overall setup relatively right. And so if it were to play out the rest of the day, here's what it does. As we go to noon, 1, it begins to put some rain in here by 1. I don't think it's going to get here that fast, but it might. So we'll just go ahead and roll with it. This is at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. We begin to see some storms and some heavier rain move into Madison County by 3 p.m., 4 p.m. You see these little isolated patches in here. This is where we could be dealing potentially with some hail. So we will keep an eye out on this and see how this plays out. But we're dealing with heavy rain, and lightning is going to be a problem, and then potentially hail at this point. And then this progresses on. Here's 5 p.m., 6 p.m. What the RRFSA does is it's got this low way back here, and where some of the other data has it farther east. So it's got this low way back here, and it's already got the line laid out from west to east. And then that all progresses to the south. And you see in this next frame, it jumps the low all the way over to here and actually has a twin lows. 983 is very low for this time of year. So even 988, very low for this time of year. But you can see what it does, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11. It pushes everything south. It basically gives us this first wave, and then by the time the second wave gets here, it's got everything laid out from west to east, and the majority of the severe threat is to the south. So again, I mentioned in my video yesterday, that potential was there that this could turn into a heavy rain event if some of the dynamics got out of whack, even though, again, they're very high, but sometimes they wash each other out a little bit. So we'll have to keep an eye out and see how that plays out. That's that model's idea. I'll show you one other idea. The next closest model is the NAM 3K. And so here it is at noon. It does have precipitation into northwestern Indiana. This is probably slow by about 45 minutes. So if you just take away an hour, this would probably really be 11 a.m., noon, 1, 2, and then it begins to bring the first wave in here around 2 p.m. It says 3, but it seems to be about this model is about an hour faster than what's actually occurring. Or actually, this model's an hour slower than what's actually occurring. I'm sorry. So this is around 2 p.m., 3, 4, 5, and then it begins to get that first wave out of here. And now the second line is getting its act together. Here would be 6, 7. It would push the line through between 6 and 7 p.m. And these will be very fast moving storms. And then 8, 9, this would be 9 p.m. By between about 7 and 9 right now, looks like if we're going to have any major severe, some really serious damaging winds, I think if we're going to have large hail, it's going to happen in the afternoon. If we're going to have tornadoes and damaging winds, they're most likely going to occur in this 7 to 9, maybe 10 p.m. time frame. Then by 10 p.m., it's getting the storms off to our southeast with just some residual stuff, and then it all progresses. So overall, I kind of like the NAM 3K, but I wanted to show you the RRFSA because that's the one that's the closest to what things are doing right now. Again, I think the NAM is off by an hour. it's maybe an hour slow. Again, this is what it has at noon. This is probably actually where it was at 11. Even at that, it's underdone with some of the extent of the severe here and back here. So none of the models are doing super great. So just to go over again, we are right on the border of an enhanced to moderate risk for severe today. All modes of severe on the table. If this thing does what it's capable of doing, we're at risk for large hail, for large long track tornadoes, and for excessively strong damaging winds. So be prepared starting from first wave probably gets here as far as anything major, probably gets here somewhere in the 2 to 3 p.m. time frame, lasts until 4 or 5. We might get a little bit of a gap, and then between about 7 and 9 p.m. would be when we'll be watching for the greater risk for the tornadoes and damaging winds. Again, I think if we're going to have hail, it's large hail, it's probably going to come with that first wave. So all we can really do is sit and watch, see what this thing actually does. That's the potential. This is probably the highest potential that I've seen in quite a while. But again, keep in mind, this thing could just turn itself into a heavy rain event and not really produce as much severe as possible. There were several tornadoes yesterday, several tornado warnings with the event yesterday, but it largely split around Madison County. So we'll see how things play out today. The thing I do not like is the fact that we got left out yesterday. It leaves this narrow channel of residual, energy that's still at play, and we're kind of sticks us between the boundaries of two storm tracks that happened yesterday. And so I don't like that. That could be something that allows severe to actually track through here a little better, severe or heavy rain. So I'll update you as need be, but I just wanted to get something out to you this morning so that you were aware of the possibilities for this afternoon. So definitely stay weather aware. If I have alerts on your phone, if you don't have any alerts on your phone, you can go to the Madison County EMA, sign up for Nixle. They will email you alerts, or you can go to an app. Let me see what that app's called here, real quick. I think it's Storm Shield. Yes, that app is called Storm Shield, and that app you can set it up for your location. It'll alert you when you're in a watch or warning box. You set the parameters for what you want to be notified for, and when it sounds off, it will actually talk to you. If you set and turn that setting on, it will actually beep at you and then tell you the National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning, and so it will actually tell you out loud what the advisory is that's being issued. Again, that's a Storm Shield app. Have some sort of method to be notified. Do not depend on sirens. That's not what they're intended for. They're really intended for people who are outdoors and maybe can't be notified, by something. Have something on your cell phone, have a weather radio, something that you can be reliably notified by. Do not depend on the sirens. So, but that said, this is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. If I need to leave work early and go live, I will. I will keep you updated as this thing develops.